They told him Silverstone would be a celebration. Instead, it became the clearest warning yet. Hamilton didn't flinch, he spun, and in that moment a new layer of Ferrari's truth was revealed. Not through words, through loss of control. As the SF25 snapped loose under the rain, millions watched the legend wrestle not just the track, but a machine still resisting him. "It's the most difficult car I've ever driven in these conditions," he said. But the real story, it wasn't just the wet surface or the sliding tires, it was what happened after, because Hamilton didn't return to the garage defeated. He returned with a list, a precise, technical, uncompromising list of what Ferrari must change and what they must let go. Behind closed doors, that list is already causing waves, not just in the 2025 garage, but in the design rooms shaping 2026. And that's the twist. Silverstone wasn't the failure it looked like, it was the turning point. Because Hamilton isn't reacting to the SF25 anymore, he's rewriting it. While the world saw a P4 finish, Hamilton saw data. Lines of telemetry no one else dared interpret emotionally. In the debrief, he didn't point fingers, he drew maps. He asked for a car that turns at low speed. He demanded stability, not as a request, but as a foundation. "A more stable car," he said, "that's what I want." But it's what he didn't say that made engineers sit straighter in their chairs. Because Ferrari heard the subtext loud and clear: "Your philosophy has limits, my legacy doesn't." And while Leclerc echoed similar frustrations, there was a difference. Leclerc spoke of hope. "We've got some upgrades coming," he said cautiously, but Hamilton didn't wait for upgrades. He's designing the replacement. That's the fracture. Two drivers, same team, same car, but fundamentally different roles. Leclerc adapts, Hamilton architects, and in Maranello, that difference is beginning to reshape everything. The question isn't whether Ferrari will listen, it's who they'll build around. Inside the garage, one name kept resurfacing: Riccardo Adami. The man who has stood beside Leclerc for seasons, the man who now finds himself navigating two empires, one fading, one rising. Because when Hamilton sat down after Silverstone, he wasn't alone. The engineers expected frustration, instead they got clarity. Hamilton didn't rant, he requested brake migration data, rear axle stability, torque curves under heavy rain, and he watched who responded, who hesitated, who avoided eye contact. Adami, caught in the charge in the middle, played it safe, too safe. Because while Hamilton spoke of rebalancing the car's DNA, Adami deferred to protocol. No risks, no rebellion, just silence. And that silence is a problem, because silence can't fix instability at turn-in. Silence can't simulate confidence on entry, and silence inside a team at war with itself is a choice. As Hamilton's voice grows inside the engineering briefings, Adami's is starting to recede, not by confrontation, but by calibration. And those watching closest know, Ferrari isn't just facing a car setup dilemma, it's facing a leadership recalibration. It looked like a simple mistake. Final stint, damp surface, cold tires, Hamilton spun, but look closer, and the moment reveals everything. This wasn't a rookie error, it was a mechanical rebellion. The SF25 refused him. Again, just like in Shanghai, just like in Montreal. But here's the shift. Hamilton didn't blame the conditions, he blamed the philosophy. Because Ferrari built a car for control, and gave it to a driver who thrives on flow. Every lap in the wet became a negotiation between instinct and engineering dogma. And when the rear stepped out, it wasn't just grip that vanished, it was the illusion that this car could be tamed without change. "I might sit with the people designing next year's car," he said afterward. Not out of curiosity, out of necessity, because this isn't just about adapting anymore, it's about intervening. Hamilton didn't spin out of the fight, he spun into it. And for those still hoping to contain his influence, that moment at Silverstone was a wake-up call. You can't lead a revolution by driving someone else's vision. Charles Leclerc stood on the same track, faced the same car, but what he saw at Silverstone wasn't just another wet race. He saw something slipping away, because while he spoke of some upgrades coming and hoping for performance, Hamilton was already inside the next season's blueprint. Ferrari once promised equality, but equal footing fades when one driver rewrites the manual, and that's what's happening. Leclerc's words were cautious. "It's still early days, we'll see." Hamilton's were surgical. "We need a car that turns at low speed." One speaks in optimism, the other in requirements, and in a team struggling to find stability, the engineer's pen is starting to trace Hamilton's voice. Not Leclerc's comfort zone. This wasn't an argument, it was a shift, because even without a podium, Hamilton emerged from Silverstone more powerful. He turned chaos into consultation, a wet mess into dry authority, and while Leclerc waits for upgrades to fix the car, Hamilton is helping design one that won't need fixing. That's not competition, that's succession. It didn't happen on camera. No media, no radio feed, no fanfare. Just a closed-door debrief in Maranello, days after the British Grand Prix. Hamilton walked in with his data, his notes, his diagnosis, and according to sources close to the technical team, he didn't just review the weekend, he rewrote it. Slide by slide, he dissected the SF25's failure in the wet. Not emotionally, but methodically. Rear grip instability, aero inconsistencies in crosswind, brake balance drift under load. One by one, he laid them out, and then, the part that silenced the room, he cross-referenced each issue with comparable patterns from his Mercedes years. Not to compare teams, but to prove a point. Great cars aren't born balanced, they're built that way, intentionally. What startled the engineers wasn't just the insight, it was the intent, because Hamilton wasn't asking to be understood, he was asking to be included, in decisions, in design, in the DNA of Ferrari's future. And for the first time, some inside the Scuderia began to realize, they don't just have a world champion in red, they have a strategist wearing overalls. In years past, Charles Leclerc was the heartbeat of Ferrari, the golden boy, the future, but since Hamilton arrived, something subtle and irreversible has begun. Not through confrontation, but through calibration. Leclerc still speaks like the center of the team, but fewer engineers orbit him now. After Silverstone, his feedback was noted, Hamilton's was logged, and when the next round of updates rolls out, they won't carry Leclerc's fingerprints. They'll carry Hamilton's signature. That's the reality behind the press releases, behind the polite smiles, because Formula One isn't just a sport, it's a power structure, and at Ferrari, power is moving, not through headlines, but through hard drives, the setup directions, the simulator baselines, the technical debriefs. All of them are starting to echo one voice more than the other. Leclerc hasn't fallen, but Hamilton has risen. And in a team that was once shaped around emotional instinct, the tide is turning toward calculated precision. It's not war yet, but the map is changing, and the engineers already know which flag is being drawn at the center. Lewis Hamilton didn't win at Silverstone, but he walked away with something far more dangerous: control of the narrative. The spin, already a lesson. The rain, already data. The SF25, already a prototype for what comes next. Because while Ferrari waits for upgrades, Hamilton is designing evolution, and that terrifies the old guard. Not because he's wrong, but because he's right, and unwilling to wait for permission. Meanwhile, Leclerc senses the shift. His language is vague, his answers guarded. He knows what it means when the team starts calibrating to someone else's rhythm. This isn't about setup anymore, it's about succession. And if Ferrari chooses to resist, to protect the comfort of the past, they may lose the only driver capable of shaping their future. The next race won't just test performance, it will test alignment. If Hamilton's vision takes hold, the SF26 won't be built around fear or ego. It will be built around clarity. But the question remains, will Ferrari embrace the change, or let the old hierarchy drag them back into chaos? If you believe Hamilton's influence must lead this team, drop a stand with Lewis in the comments now. And if you want to see how deep this transformation goes, subscribe, because the war for Ferrari's soul is just beginning.